Many thanks to the Connecticut Business and Industry Association for organizing the event today. It's a real honor for me to be here. And I, of course, love to talk about the University of Connecticut. I was glad to hear the shout out to Georgia Tech. Worked very closely with all the folks there for a couple of years and was on the faculty there. And they are absolutely a model when it comes to university roles and economic development. So that's where we want to be. It's a stretch for us. Georgia Tech's been doing it in a very sophisticated way for a long time, but I think we can get there too. So I did have some formal remarks just to give you a sense of the landscape and where UConn is headed. But I always look forward most to the questions and answers, and I see we have a lot of time for that. And happy to talk about economic development, but also happy to talk about any questions you have, academic, financial. I am a political scientist, so you know we've begun to be obsessed with the presidential election. Happy to talk about that too. That's my field, and that's very interesting. And of course, happy to talk about athletics. Any aspect. I'm using my NCAA pen right now, as a matter of fact, because I spend so much time on this, and it's very important to UConn. It's important to the state, and it's a major force for economic development as well as you understand, those of you who live, especially in the Hartford region. So it's a great privilege to serve as the 15th president of the University of Connecticut. We are a top 20 public university according to U.S. News. That's not a perfect methodology, but we'll take it. It doesn't mean that we should sit there and be smug about where we are and how far we've come. We've got a long way to go, but it's a great recognition of the work of so many people at the university and in the community, and especially the state investing so heavily in the university. And when I accepted the job at the University of Connecticut, it's something that both governors, the outgoing governor and Governor Malloy, talked with me about during the fall. I said that my priority would be economic development. It has been. Thanks for mentioning our new vice president, Mary Holzclaws, who is somewhere here. Maybe she could stand up. There she is. So she's somebody that you'll see a lot. I think she's probably visited with some of you already, but she's taking a few months here, especially to learn about Connecticut, to learn about the major industries we have and meet a lot of the leaders. So hopefully you'll see her soon. Connecticut already possesses so many strengths that are much to its advantage, and I don't have to tell you that we have a prime location between New York and Boston. We have an abundance of excellent higher education institutions across the region, public and private, and a solid foundation of industry and entrepreneurship, as evidenced by your presence here. Our university wants to do everything we can to help the state and to help you build on these strengths, particularly at this time where the state is in such great need. So more than ever before, our university is positioned to become a greater, more powerful contributor to the Connecticut economy. And in fact, every dollar invested by the state in UConn and in our health center currently results in about a $5 increase to Connecticut's gross domestic product. And I'll say that, you know, for the last, until about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, university presidents, when they talked about economic development, they meant that the university employs a lot of people. Or that people come to the university to drop off their kids to start the semester or to come to a game or a theatrical event, and then they spend money in the community. It's hard to spend too much in stores, but it does happen. So you spend more money in Farmington and some of Stamford, some of our other locations, but we're working on that. Anyway, that's the way that presidents used to talk about economic development, and obviously the conversation has changed dramatically since then. Now we don't just see ourselves as a big employer or a place that people come to spend a little money. We see ourselves as job creators, as an institution that is central to the state economy, and I think that's true for public universities and private universities alike. Our mission is, as a land-grant institution, a public research university, and very much about educating the next generation of leaders, of scientists. Scholars contribute to the state now and are part of its future in a lot of the fields that were mentioned in the introduction, material science and bioscience being two of the stars. Vital research, basic research, applied research, working to help the citizens of Connecticut, you know, take on leadership roles, and fostering the kind of innovative thinking that you find at a research university is going to be critical to transforming this economy and creating the kind of jobs that we want in this age of sort of post-manufacturing. Already we've seen the investments of the state in these areas beginning to have a return. I think that the Jackson Labs project, and we signed those papers yesterday, is probably the stellar example that we have at present. But let me give you an overview this morning of a few initiatives that the state has put into place to support the governor's strategy to revitalize Connecticut using UConn's assets, not only in Farmington and Storrs, but also at our regional campuses. But before I do that, let me ask that you consider just for a moment the prospect of a completely reinvented Connecticut. And it's something that a lot of you have thought about already, but here's how we see it, at least from the university standpoint. We try to imagine the state these days as the home to a burgeoning biotech industry, drawing even greater numbers of highly skilled, educated workers and their families to live and to work here, bringing together emerging startup businesses with top researchers. So we try to picture an economy that's become a destination for cutting-edge research and the premier site for specialized fields in science and technology. So we try to envision our own East Coast version of Silicon Valley, a hub of novel scientific expertise and flourishing industry with renowned international experts working on our sites. It's very important in this kind of talk, this high rhetoric, to make choices, though, and I think we've made some very clear choices. Two already mentioned, bioscience and material science, but there are others as well that we're working on to develop. No university, no great university does everything well, and if you don't make choices and spread yourselves too thin, then you won't contribute to the economy, and you certainly won't boost the scholarship within the university. So that's something that we work on now. It's a little bit difficult in higher education to do strategic planning because you have to explain to people that while we're a comprehensive university, we can't afford to do everything. We have to build on strength. And not everybody will get chosen in the first round for investments. So that's something that the deans and the provost and I have to work on. The worst job at the university, he's not here because he's holding down the fort, is to be the provost, the chief academic officer. And what he does is choose among apples and oranges all the time. Every part of the university is important. Every school and college contributes greatly. But we do have to make some choices. All the deans are very compelling. They're great advocates for their disciplines, but right now we need to focus on what we do well already and try to push to the next level to get to the highest order of excellence, not only when it comes to scholarship, but also to economic development. So you've all played roles here, given the institutions you're associated with, in encouraging and establishing a Connecticut that encourages innovation and tries to turn it into dynamic economic growth. And you've taken a lot of the steps already necessary to pave the way for a stronger state and to help UConn do its part. So where does UConn fit in exactly, and what role would we play in a changed Connecticut economy? I think you know the governor's vision. He's put it out there in a very compelling fashion, which is, I find, very, very persuasive, for a kind of a Connecticut research triangle that would link Storrs, Farmington, and New Haven, and then points between. It provides a great example of the roles that universities can play in the economy, to think of it as a triangle and think about those geographic locations tied by intellectual and scholarly endeavor. In fact, North Carolina is the research triangle that everybody talks about. It's the original research triangle. There really is a thriving regional business climate there that's done very well in the down economy due to investment decisions made decades ago. Very bold stuff that a lot of people didn't understand at the time. It's paid off, and it placed higher education right at the center, and those are some great institutions, Duke, University of North Carolina, and North Carolina State. And it's paid off tremendously. Those institutions, as well as the major business expansions that happened in the Research Triangle, companies like Cisco and Fidelity Investments, they continue today, even while a lot of the U.S. is suffering from job losses. So a Connecticut research triangle, research and innovation triangle, linking, again, Farmington, Storrs, and New Haven, offers a similar kind of promise. At least that's how we see it from our vantage point. Connecticut has, with Bioscience Connecticut in particular, staked out a strategy that promises the same kind of economic growth and stability that you have in North Carolina's Research Triangle. And currently, UConn's partnering two of those components. So again, to our east, the UConn Tech Park that was mentioned on the Storrs campus, and then Bioscience Connecticut in Farmington. Just a few months ago, Governor Malloy and legislative leaders joined us in Storrs to sign legislation authorizing state bond funds to begin the design and development of the Tech Park, which we expect to be operational by 2015. So again, that's the Storrs project, heavily based in material sciences. Similar to the North Carolina's Research Triangle, the UConn Tech Park at Storrs will bring together world-class scholars and researchers with men and women around the state and the region who are creating startup businesses. So these are entrepreneurs who will benefit from access to advanced equipment, shared services of core facilities, faculty expertise in areas like engineering, pharmacy, agriculture, and also engaged UConn students. We have a gigantic workforce, a sort of dormant workforce at UConn of young people, very smart people who will offer their free labor, to learn from entrepreneurs and faculty. It's part of their education to be involved in innovation and research. They like it, and they're a powerful force. So some faculty, some entrepreneurs, some faculty and some entrepreneurs have recognized this and really engaged our students in ways that have helped their companies and their research projects tremendously. The Tech Park's being designed with industry input, very importantly, and a response to industry and economic needs. While at the university, the park and its resources will be targeted to benefit industry and will act as the foundation for company and job growth. Specifically, UConn's Tech Park will be designed to spark the development and commercialization of new ideas for manufacturing and advanced product development in such areas as aerospace, defense, biotechnology, and energy. So those are, again, in having to make choices, those are some of the ones that we're focused on. We have a terrific Dean of Engineering. I don't know if he's here today. He's everywhere usually. Moon Choi. He's here. I knew he is here. And a lot of you know him already. He's a critical leader for the university. A real visionary, somebody who is who's leading the effort on the Tech Park, but does so much for our campus, and one of those people that also is not afraid to reach across disciplines, reach over to Farmington, and bring the power of UConn together. Just to mention a few examples in this general area, we're already commercializing Professor Greg Sotzing's, I always pronounce that wrong, patented color-changing electrochromic polymer technology, is Moon, I hope that's pronounced correctly, with applications for windows, goggles, and fabrics. Leading experts from our School of Pharmacy have worked on determining how a new compound will affect particular diseases and predict its ability to dissolve effectively in the body. So these are some of the projects that I don't understand that we're working on, and that Mary and Rita Zingari and Moon can explain more. But again, pharmacy, engineering, material science, those are the focuses, and just examples of professors and projects that are bringing their expertise to the new Tech Park. Very important is that the Tech Park will house large, flexible use laboratories, again, getting back to that shared equipment idea, containing the kind of specialized equipment not readily available to local industry or regional industry, where, again, academic researchers and industry scientists can collaborate closely together and attract partners from around the world in global manufacturing and material needs. I was at State University of New York for a bit in Albany. And I don't know if you know much about it, but the state of New York invested heavily in nanoscience. That was a choice they made, and to the tune of billions, and invested it on the campus at SUNY Albany. And that is now, it was one of the first, maybe the only actual college of nanoscience engineering, and has really created so many jobs in that upper part of the Hudson Valley that was suffering tremendously. So based in, again, nanoscience, nanofabrication, and doing incredibly well. So again, it's good to make a choice. It's good to be a little bit narrow and try to focus so that your investment can pay off, again, in economic development and job creation. So here at the Tech Park and Stores, again, we're already starting the planning for it, and the building will start to go up soon. Connecticut's own faculty and students, again, in these fields, engineering, chemistry, pharmacy, other fields, will be able to work alongside researchers from a wide range of companies. So it's not necessarily the case that researchers from the companies will be on site all the time. Some will be, some won't be. There'll be a lot of revolving door as people come to use our equipment and collaborate with others. New advanced materials will be developed to serve as the basis for novel medical devices, provide new options for the production of jet engines, or advance the use of new sustainable energy technologies. So it's a very well-timed initiative. Over the past 15 years, the university has already laid the groundwork for very strong industry-university interactions by developing core technological competencies needed to support our state's economy. That said, we have a lot more work to do, and that's one of, again, Mary's goals these first few months, is to try to figure out which relationships we have with industry at the university and which we're lacking, which need to be strengthened. So she's doing a sort of inventory of all the university's industry relations to try to figure that out. Meanwhile, UConn, as you might have read if you follow us, has been reaching new heights of academic success in more conventional ways. We doubled our research grants. And we like to count mostly federal money that comes in from the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation, increasing our technology transfer activities and recruiting outstanding research faculty. In fact, our recently announced tuition increase that got a lot of coverage is targeted to hiring additional faculty, and these will be research faculty because those are the kind of people we hire at a university of our caliber, many of whom will have the expertise to align with research initiatives that I'm talking about today. So I think all the pieces fit together incredibly well. When we talked about the tuition increase with the Board of Trustees, it was focused on brain power. The state of Connecticut has invested so well in the physical plant at Storrs and in Farmington, but we need to now find as many people as we can to put in those buildings and those beautiful facilities, to bring in research grants, to create new knowledge, and to innovate. So the focus now is on people. Not that we don't have a lot of deferred maintenance and building projects that we need, but I think now we're more oriented toward, again, research and innovation that comes from bringing great people to Connecticut. One of the programs that we had in Georgia through the Georgia Research Alliance was called an Eminent Scholar Program. It's something that all universities do just as a matter of course as they become better, is to steal great researchers and their entire labs from other universities and bring them to you. And we hire a lot of junior faculty, people who are just out of graduate school or just out of a postdoctoral fellowship, but I'll tell you the easiest way to get to move up very quickly is to try to go for researchers who are already well established and are already bringing a lot of federal grants in, and we'll bring those grants with them. So Georgia did incredibly well in this, put a lot of money in state and private money to this Eminent Scientist Program. It's something, again, we do some of here in Connecticut, but we need to really ramp that up because, again, that'll accelerate all these projects pretty quickly. To our west, a couple of miles, the Bioscience Project. I think most of you have read about that, but it is anchored at our UConn campus in Farmington, where our medical school and our dental school are located, already showing impressive return on investment. In particular, the announcement that we had back in September of a partnership with Jackson Labs, and I'll touch more on that in a minute. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with Bioscience Connecticut, we in the university forget that not everybody is reading every word about us. So let me back up just a little bit. But Bioscience Connecticut is an initiative focused primarily on leveraging the health center in Farmington to advance our state's economy and healthcare goals, making Connecticut a leader in bioscience research. Bioscience it's a growing industry. It's poised to create a lot of well-paying jobs here in Connecticut, and again, meant to connect UConn, Yale, the economy, and also public health. So there are three main areas of emphasis within Bioscience Connecticut, so let me just go over those very quickly. First is education. The UConn Health Center is home to a graduate program and this is Ph.D. students in bioscience research. It's home again to the schools of medicine and dentistry. And the School of Dentistry doesn't get enough attention, and that's true almost at every university when there's a close relationship between dentistry and medicine. But it's widely considered one of the best dental schools in the country. So, and I go there often for my own care. I could tell you that it's highly professional and great researchers who per capita bring in as much money, federal grant money, as any great university, and we're very proud of both that and the medical school. Combined, the medical school and the dental school have trained about 4,300 physicians and dentists since the early 70s when the schools got their start. Many of those people continue to provide care here in Connecticut. In fact, 35% of our School of Medicine grads and 46% of the School of Dental Medicine grads practice in Connecticut today. And this is a common thing. People often like to stay in the state, in the region where they went to medical school or dental school, but you have to give them reason to stay here, and you have to make it an exciting place so that they don't look to move out of state. So to ensure that we keep pace with the increasing demand for dentists, for doctors in our state, Bioscience Connecticut calls for a 30% increase in the enrollment at our medical and dental schools. In light of predicted shortages of primary care physicians and dentists, the plan also calls for a loan forgiveness program for students who stay in practice in the state of Connecticut. So that was the governor's idea. It's very important to us, and we were glad to be pushed on that because I think it is going to be central to improving the nature of healthcare in the state. Second area of emphasis is research innovation, and bioscience calls for the first major upgrade in the original building on the health center's campus, as well as doubling the amount of incubator space at the university for small business startups in bioscience fields. So incubator space, if you're not familiar with that, affords small startup companies a place to set up that's cost effective while also promoting the exchange of ideas among researchers, among entrepreneurs. Renovations for these upgrades are expected to be completed by 2015 and then 2017, respectively. Right now, we have 22 companies incubating at UConn and a strong pipeline of additional requests. So this promises many more opportunities for us to support new Connecticut ventures. Keep in mind that research has a direct impact on the Connecticut economy. It's true in every state, and we've got a lot of empirical data about this. Like construction, research brings with it new dollars, new jobs. For example, in fiscal 2007, Connecticut NIH, National Institutes of Health Awards, brought $476 million to Connecticut, supporting more than 5,500 jobs at an annual average wage of $60,000. And as for new jobs, in the long term, we foresee more than 16,000 highly skilled jobs being created in a variety of biotech fields with the outcome of Bioscience Connecticut. So again, research creates jobs this way, just for people who wonder what's going on in this black box, is you bring researchers to a university, they apply for federal money, usually NIH money in a situation like this, but also there are some other federal granting agencies. Sometimes they bring in money from big pharma or foundations, but a lot of the money that we need to get our hands on is federal money through the National Institutes. Researchers bring those monies in through grants, and then they hire people. They hire fellow clinicians, researchers. They hire people who work in laboratories. They hire administrative assistants. So that's how the job creation works. The money's coming from outside the state, and then those people, of course, buy houses and get their hair cut and pay taxes. So that's generally how the research equation tends to boost the local economies. Bioscience Connecticut should help us to get to the next level of achievement in these areas, again, in research and economic development. Let me talk about Jackson Labs for a minute. It is, and if you're not in the field, which I'm not a geneticist or somebody in genomics, you might not know that Jackson is one of the premier global firms in this area. And it's hard to find a scientist in the general area of the life sciences, so that's going well beyond some of the disciplines I talk about, who's not familiar with Jackson, with its research, and with its capabilities in producing the kind of mice that are vital for experimentation in the sciences and curing disease. So this is a world-class organization with a huge amount of respect. It's very, very big international news that Jackson chose Connecticut, chose Farmington as a place to locate their research operations. So Jackson, and again, we signed all the papers yesterday, so it's a done deal. We'll build a facility on the UConn Health Center campus in Farmington for a new genetics research program. It's dedicated to personalized medicine. I won't try to explain that. I'll let Ed Liu, the director, the president of Jackson, explain it to you over the course of time over the next few months. But they're going to be dedicated to personalized medicine, individualized medicine, in collaboration with UConn, the UConn Health Center, Yale, and the state. Well, just a moment. Let me go out on a limb to talk about individualized medicine. The notion is that everybody has a kind of unique genome, unique DNA sequencing, and the future of medicine, and I think it's a pretty sure bet at this point, it's not a risky venture, is to try to figure out as an individual what your makeup is, so that we can target treatments for disease when you come down with an illness more effectively. So instead of just using a very blunt instrument and trying, say, a certain form of chemotherapy on everybody who has generally the same type of cancer, you try to get much more specific. What's the person's makeup? Try to work environmental factors into that and figure out a unique treatment plan so that you can cure the disease. Showing some very, very promising results, especially in the area of cancer, but in others as well. So this is the big thing that's going on in the life sciences. It's the future. I hope that'll move along very quickly so that people who have gray hair in this room might be able to benefit from some of it, but definitely your children, your grandchildren. This is the way they're likely to be treated into the future in contemporary American medicine. So it's a very big deal. I'm not sure I got it right, but I could swear that somebody asked the governor yesterday at the press conference, it was something like, well, what does Jackson Labs and bioscience bring to Connecticut besides possibly curing cancer? And I was like, and the governor answered the question well, as always, but it struck me as strange because that to do that here in Connecticut or to make good progress would certainly be something to be very proud of, not only for UConn but for everybody in the state. Third component of Bioscience Connecticut is to improve access to state-of-the-art health care. Bioscience Connecticut, among other things, is trying to bring to fruition plans to renovate parts of the existing John Dempsey Hospital, which some of you may have visited, and to build a new patient care tower and also an ambulatory care center on the UConn Health Center campus. So it's not so much that we're increasing the number of hospital beds, we're changing the nature of some of them, but there is going to be more ambulatory care, so that's a big part of the project. The health center and its university hospital already provide excellent care. We have great docs there if you've visited. But this will enhance the care even more with sophisticated, cutting-edge facilities. The hospital really does need to be a modern hospital that has, for example, rooms big enough to bring equipment in. So we get some basic structural problems that will be solved by building a new hospital tower. By the same token, Bioscience Connecticut also supports very important community-based partnerships, including a joint project with St. Francis Hospital and Medical Center, as well as programs with other regional hospitals and Hartford-based healthcare organizations. I'm headed over after this talk to Children's Hospital, a great partner for us and very interested, as are the other hospitals in the region, in individualized medicine because it's part of their future as well. One of the reasons that Jackson or any other company working in individualized medicine or constellation of researchers needs to come to a more urban setting like this is because we do have a lot of patients and diverse patients. So across all of our hospitals, John Dempsey, Hartford Hospital, Children's, St. Francis, all great institutions, we have the number of people that is important in this kind of scientific experimentation and treatment. So we're very, very grateful for the role that so many of these teaching hospitals play in supporting our School of Dentistry and Medicine. We have a lot of students and a lot of residents that need to get out into hospitals. Our hospital's a small one, so we're all tied together in a collaboration that's been, I think, vital for the community and certainly has helped us to become a stronger School of Medicine and School of Dentistry. So together, the UConn Tech Park on the Storrs campus and Bioscience Connecticut and Farmington have set the university on a course toward increased job creation in construction initially. Obviously, there's a lot of construction to do in both projects, so that's the immediate job creator that we're very excited about, but also longer-term jobs that are permanent in high-tech fields and healthcare fields, focused again on renewing the state's economy. At the same time, these efforts will help to meet the need for increasing access to healthcare services and life-saving advances in research. Remember that loan forgiveness program that I talked about again, training more doctors and dentists and keeping them in state and having a reason for them to stay. I want to stress that while our university and the health center are geared up to play an important role in helping to develop this Connecticut Research Triangle, we can most certainly also count on many more products, companies, and jobs originating from these relationships with Yale, with Wesleyan, and many of the other important institutions across the state. So I don't want to sound too UConn-centric. Scientists will tell you that they don't care where another scientist is located. If they are a good and important, useful collaborator, they will collaborate with them. So we don't worry about the faculty finding each other, researchers finding each other. We worry about giving them the kind of resources they need to pursue whatever project it is that they're great at. So again, here's Mary Holmes-Claus is mentioned in my remarks again. I mentioned her already. She's wonderful. She'll be to you soon, working on our research portfolio and how that feeds into economic development. All of us at UConn are very excited about what's happened in the past few months. There are a lot of unsung heroes in these projects, people who have been working on the tech park for a decade or more and dreaming about that as a locus for engineering projects, in particular materials science and pharmaceuticals. And it's finally become a reality thanks to Senator Williams and some very strong support from the governor's office. So, people working on that a long time, finally seeing it become a reality. And it's certainly true in Farmington with the health center that we've needed assistance for a long time. I always tell the story in public, so why not here? When I was first appointed, so I was in December, I guess a month or two later, we were in a tough situation in Farmington with John Dempsey Hospital where it really needed serious renovation, and so we came to the governor and his staff to ask them for help in this so that we could save the hospital and make it the kind of modern hospital that UConn and the community deserves. And so we gave him this proposal, and he said, "Is that it? That's your biggest dream, is to try to modernize the hospital and avoid budgetary problems?" And so that set us back a little bit. So he said, well, go back and think of something that is going to create jobs, that's really going to enhance the economy, and at the same time make for a better hospital and working conditions for your doctors and as they care for your patients. And so we went back and we thought about this, and we dreamed big dreams, as he encouraged us to do, and came back, instead of for a couple $100 million, $850+ million project, which he studied and we talked about over several months, and realized that this was going to be our best bet, not only for improving the health center, but for making this key engine for economic growth for the state. So we couldn't be more grateful to the governor, not only for making this project happen, for helping to get it through the legislature, for working on the Jackson Labs, but for his original push was to try to dream big for the state. And it's very interesting for me to come to Connecticut, not having lived here before. I'm from New York originally, and New York's state motto is Excelsior, ever upward. And it's a state with great ambitions. The nanoscience project in Albany being a great example of their interest in research and economic development tied together. In Connecticut, we're not moving as fast. And we don't say Excelsior all the time, ever upward. So we have some tremendous pockets of ambition at UConn, people who are just waiting for the push, for the support, not only from industry, but from the legislature and the governor's office. We have that now. It's wonderful for us. It's not only supporting people who've been working on this for a long time, but also bringing a lot of new people into this project, trying to figure out how it is their research can contribute to the state's well-being, which is our #1 goal. So thanks so much for having me, and happy to answer any questions. I didn't know if there were people are just going to stand up, or are there cards or cards? Okay. The cards are good because then it's anonymous, and can ask whatever you like. Thanks. Have they been screened? No. Okay, this is from Kelly Kennedy from Norwich Community Development Corp, and it's for us Yukon people, and I think I'm probably going to give this to Rita Zangari, who works for us in economic development, to talk more specifically about the Startup Connecticut weekend, because I know a bit about it, but I think she could probably explain in more depth. There, Rita.
Hello, everybody. Actually, I didn't think Kevin's also part of the planning. Essentially, it's a weekend where...
Oh, yeah, maybe you want to...
Yeah. So essentially, this is one of many weekends that have occurred where companies, meaning entrepreneurs, either students or individual entrepreneurs, come to a location over a weekend's time. They start and begin the operation of a new company. And so as part of that, there are a number of mentors and successful entrepreneurs that come together, coach them, prepare them for funding. Kevin Booley, who is leading the charge in the stores operation of Startup Connecticut, is part of that, and he's somebody you should talk to on your way out if you're interested in joining us. And so this year there's also a number of prizes offered, including incubation space, access to Yukon technology. We're going to give people a sneak peek at the resources we have on the shelf that can be licensed, and so there's a number of goodies that you can access by participating.
Thanks, Rita. I don't know if this question is for you, but we have one other that somebody wrote down here, and they want to know the design team. I think they mean the architects for the tech park and stores. So, Moon, have we chosen the firm yet? Or?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Thank you. The firm that was chosen is Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, and it's a very iconic firm that designed the Sears Tower and also the World Trade Center. And the goal is to have a groundbreaking probably sometime in the fall of 2012 with the completion of the building in 2015. The building scope is going to be about, the size of the building will be about 125,000 square feet. The cost of the building will probably be about 125 million, but there's going to be 40 million available for new equipment. And as the president mentioned, material science will be very important. Advanced manufacturing will be very important. Pharmacy. We need to make the pharmaceutical companies in this state want to stay because of the technologies that we can provide. And the best way that this is going to work is to have a partnership between industry, entrepreneurs, working with our faculty and students. So we see this as a great success. But during this period, between now and 2015, we want to hear from you, members of the industry, so that we design the building and the programs that are going to make it more beneficial for your needs, and to make Connecticut a leader in some of these key areas related to defense, materials, biotechnology, and eventually working with Bioscience Connecticut, personalized medicine. So it's very exciting.
Thanks. So how about other questions? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm retired from General Electric in Fairfield, but chair a group of retired executives from General Electric in Fairfield. Incidentally, the building designed by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, too. I want to, on a couple of things. Number one, given our own research and our own strengths and everything else, we're investing billions in healthcare, transportation, infrastructure, and of course, energy. Those are big areas for us, but I want to pick you up on Research Triangle, and also John Rath gave his comment that his own son was down there at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Many years ago, you talked about decades ago for Research Triangle. Many years ago, and more than 3 decades ago, North Carolina started up Research Triangle. I know that we in General Electric called that to the attention of the people here in Connecticut, and with the help of CBIA, try to get something going on that. But nothing happened. There was a lack of vision. There was a lack of planning. There was a lack of any kind of leadership at all, and there's a lack of financing on the thing. This takes a good deal of tenacity, a good deal of perseverance, and continuing leadership. I wish you well. We've got thousands, several thousands of jobs now down in Research Triangle. And it could happen in Connecticut, but Connecticut has blown some great opportunities in the past. And what makes you think that's going to be different in the future?
You know, I spent a lot of time with the governor, and that's what's going to make it happen. I mean, he is. You know, I've not lived in Connecticut. I mean, I just got here recently, so you know, I don't know what the approach was, you know, in the past by state government. But this governor is different from pretty much any governor I've worked with or state leader in his desire to make things happen. Or how did he put it? He hates to fail. More importantly, he has a unique and very sophisticated vision for how research in particular is a engine for economic growth. I mean, you don't have to explain it to him. You know, I have spent so much time in different states with legislators trying to explain the importance of basic and applied research for the economic health of a community or a state, and you're usually starting at a pretty basic level. Not that the people aren't intelligent, but it's something that they hadn't thought about before. This governor's thought about it a lot. You know, I think that, you know, having been a highly successful mayor and really bringing up a city and turning it around gives him a sense of, you know, what motivates people, what kind of incentives you need to put out there. But, you know, what I was so impressed by is, again, the understanding of research. For example, something that a lot of state leaders don't understand is that scientific research takes time. That you invest in it, you invest in people, and you don't necessarily invent a new drug or immunization, a vaccine, or anything like that immediately. You know, it does take time to cook, and people can only think and collaborate so quickly. So you've got to have both the ambition to invest, you know, and the courage to invest, especially in these hard times, but also you have to have the patience, the kind of intelligent, thoughtful patience that it takes to do big science. They had it in North Carolina, you know, our governor has it, they had it at Georgia Tech, so you get the right people in the right places and they can do it. But I think it's very much about leadership. Again, I don't know what happened in the past, so, you know, I'm stepping into undiplomatic things all the time because I wasn't here, but you know, people usually excuse me. So all I can do is speak to the present and speak comparatively, you know, speak about him in relation to, you know, other state leaders that I've worked with. So we're beyond hopeful. We're energized, we're dreaming big, we're making things happen, and he's a real inspiration to us. So that's the best I can do. Yeah. Yeah, that's a thanks. That's a great question. And we have Carla Fox here. She's a longtime UConn faculty member in the School of Business, and she's also the interim dean of the School of Business, having served the university in diverse capacities. She's actually a leader in her field right now. But just a moment before Carla speaks is I hear from a lot of alumni. Our business school alumni are incredibly active and connected to the university. They've usually had very good experience as undergraduates or MBA students, and they were part of the reason why, you know, I made it my #1 priority to hire a new leader in economic development, because they told me that our industry relations were very uneven. You know, that we had some very good, strong relationships with some companies like GE being one of them, and then other companies who are major forces for economic development in the state haven't laid eyes on us or our faculty or our dean in a long time. So there's kind of unevenness, a lot of pockets of just, vacancy in terms of connection. And so that's why Mary's first task is to try to understand which connections we have and which ones are missing, or that we've kind of abandoned, companies that we used to work with and then it just kind of drifted off. But Carla can be a little bit more specific.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to say to the gentleman that asked about the research triangle, you'll all pick up on my southern Connecticut accent. And I actually came originally, I went to school at a school that Susan and I both went to that's a basketball rival of UConn, so maybe I won't mention the D word. But I was actually in the Research Triangle when it started, and I think we have a wonderful opportunity. I remember bringing up the Research Triangle, and I know that we can do it here. In regard to the specific question about what's the business school doing, we have a very strong focus on what we call experiential learning, which is learning by doing. And in the last few years in particular, have created a strategic plan whereby we will be intimately engaged with business, not only on a research and theoretical level, but also on applied. And one of our greatest strengths and impetuses at the moment is to have teams of faculty, students, and business people working on real problems and issues or projects for the business community throughout the state, all areas of the state. And I think that by combining our theoretical foundations to give a good business education with actual applied experience, we're building for that economic development that is the goal of the whole university. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. One of the most important locations for our business school is in Stamford, and we haven't talked about that much today. I do think, here I go talking about the past, which I might not understand fully, but I do think we have been remiss in the attention that we paid to Fairfield County from the University of Connecticut, and I hear it powerfully, from business leaders, industry leaders in Fairfield County. We need to do a lot more there. We're working on a pretty substantial strategic plan for expansion of the Stamford campus and how it is going to become, academically better, but also be better linked to important industry and corporate headquarters in that area. So I think that campus has been very underutilized. It's time to turn our eyes toward it in a much more intense way and take advantage of that part of the state, which has so many opportunities for us. So it's one of our highest priorities, and glad to talk about that more specifically some other time for those of you who are interested. Now, one question about athletics? I can't believe it. What's that? UConn men and women. Oh, that's tough after the Seton Hall game on the. Still recovering from that. Yeah, it's good to keep expectations low. How's that, right? Remember, it's funny, I was thinking the other day after the Seton Hall event, my husband was like, he didn't want to watch the rest of the game. I was really, it's tough going. And I said, remember last year with the men's team, we were playing Syracuse. It was some, frigid night in February. And it was not going well. I mean, really, it was very tough for us. And I thought, well, we'd be lucky to make the tournament, given the team. And look at how they turned that around. So good to keep expectations low. So I'm not going to make predictions. The women's team is absolutely wonderful, as they always are. But they've got their struggles too. We're very young, both teams. And we play these teams like Seton Hall that have seniors on them who have played sometimes 70, 80, 90 more games than our guys have, and it makes a big difference in terms of their maturity. So I could talk about this forever, but I'll stop here. Thanks, Pete.